welcome to episode 6 of Return of the Retro. I am Randark, and with me is Ervik. Ervik, say hi.
Hello.
Today is Thursday, August 22nd, and we're going to talk about Shadowrun. This game recently had a sequel via Kickstarter, and that'll be our show topic for next week. This is a special 2-part episode. And if you're listening to us, you're probably very familiar with the Geek Insomnia Network, where you can find great shows like Geek Culture Happy Hour, Late Night Steamer, and Minecraft Uncensored, along with us, Return of the Retro. And you should be listening to all of them, even if you're not interested in what we're talking about, because they're funny fucking shows. Ervik,
Yes.
we got some criticism that we wanted to have separate sections, so let's start that a little bit tonight. What are the sections we're going to cover in a normal show?
News.
News! Yay!
News. And the game, obviously. The game.
The game. And the intro section where we're going to cover what we've been playing. So what have you been playing?
I have been playing, obviously, our game of the week, Shadowrun. Shadowrun returns because I picked it up when it came out. I pre-ordered it and been playing that. As usual, MWO, Mech Warrior Online, because I love stompy mechs. They actually just convinced me to drop $80 to pre-order some new mechs for that game that don't come out till like October. That's how much I'm addicted to that game.
Nice.
Since we'll talk about this in a bit, but I had my gallbladder removed, so I've been spending a lot of time in a recliner. So my wife picked me up Tales of Xillia, which is a Tales game, if you're familiar with the RPG series Tales. And it's been pretty fucking awesome. I've probably sank 60 hours or so sitting there. The last week and a half has mostly been split between my recliner and my porcelain recliner. So, yeah.
Ooh, your porcelain throne reclines. That's impressive.
Well,
Or have you just gotten to the point where you slump on it?
I might have broke it.
I also have been playing Shadowrun. On Late Night Steamer on Saturday, I mentioned I hadn't been playing Steam, but then all of a sudden, right after that episode, I decided, I need to get back at Steam. So I've been playing a ton of Steam games lately. Castle Crashers, DuckTales, that DJ got me, Dungeons and Dragons Chronicles of Mystara that you got me, Team Fortress 2, Faster Than Light, and then Mark of the Ninja, which, I normally hate sneak around games, but that one's actually a lot of fun. There is enough action in it that it keeps me interested.
I like stealth games, but even I think Mark of the Ninja nailed it. Like that game is the perfect blend of action and stealth. And it turns out stealth really works on a 2D plane way better than I thought it would. Like,
yeah, I
works.
think that's what really does it for me, because I can't stand 3D stealth.
Yeah, I love Mark of the Ninja. I beat it a while back when it was fairly new, and I fucking love that game.
And of course, I also have my 3DS games I've been playing. Some Luigi's Mansion, Tetris, DS, and I'm back into Animal Crossing like a fucking fiend.
God, all my friends down here are playing Animal Crossing. I was at D&D earlier, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder to be precise, and we were everyone was swapping friend codes so they could get some goddamn bells from each other and plant fucking plants and shit. What's wrong with all you people?
Listen, you only got access to so many of the fruits. You got to be able to get with other people so you can have the whole collection of all the fruit.
God, they were too. All of them were fruiting it up in there.
So you want to talk about our first news story?
Yeah, the game we reviewed, what was it, last week? Or was it the week?
Two
weeks ago.
About a month ago, because we do bi-weekly episodes. But yeah, 2 episodes.
Ago. Eternal Darkness, we mentioned then there was a Kickstarter for the sequel. The Kickstarter had been pulled down once and restarted, and they said it was to add more quality, when we all knew it was because they weren't going to meet their goal. Well, turns out we've got less than 30 hours to go, and we're not even halfway. So this game's probably not going to get funded, which is unfortunate. I do love Eternal Darkness, but unfortunately Dennis Dyack has built up some ill will with his last few ventures, Too Human, not to name a few, and it looks like he just does not have the clout to get this done, which is really unfortunate because, like I said, Eternal Darkness is one of my favorite games.
Yeah, I actually had originally pledged the I think it was $20 for the early pledger for just a copy of the game. And I was really excited about one of the things they added. I can't even remember what it was now, but they added a new tier that got you, I think it was a t-shirt, was like another $25. And so I upped my bid to $45. And then last Tuesday happened, and I lost my job, so I ended up taking my whole pledge back. But my $45 was not going to push us over the $750,000. So
they were,
not my fault. Don't blame me.
Yeah, last I looked, they were, I think, just cresting 300K of 750K, and they were, like I said, close to 24 hours left, and I just don't see. I hope they do, but I don't see this game getting made. They may still go at it. Diac made an entire new software development company for this, so they may try and go a traditional publication route, get it done the old school way. They may try and spread this Kickstarter out a little more, so we shall see.
One of the things about the company and stuff is they got like 20,000 people that upvoted it on Steam Greenlight, but those same people weren't willing to put their money down on a Kickstarter.
Unfortunately, not every game he's made has been a hit. In fact, probably at least 50-50 ratio. So people really want to see a sequel, but they just don't trust him enough to give him money.
When a guy like, what's his name, David Crane can't get his game to go, it doesn't surprise me that someone like Denny Diac can't either. I mean, Crane's a legend in the video game industry. He came up with Pitfall and River Raid and all those great Activision games that you remember from the 2600. That was all him. And to see this fail is not really a surprise at all.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I'll be honest, I did not pledge. I probably would have had he gotten closer, but I didn't see it making it. So maybe that's what happened. Everyone went, well, that's not close enough. Let's not give him money. So maybe I'm part of the problem. Maybe I'm a jackass.
You are a jackass. Did you watch the trailer for it at all?
I did. I was excited. This guy made some of my favorite games. Eternal Darkness, several of the Blood Omen games, if you ever played Blood Omen Legacy of Kain.
No. What were the Blood Omen games about?
You played a vampire, and you got to murder people with your teeth.
I like it. That's pretty good.
I don't remember if he made all of them. I know he made the Blood Omen Legacy of Kain, which is the first one. I don't know if he did the rest. There are, I think, 5 of them at a certain point. But that was a really fun game. It was a top-down, isometric, looked kind of like playing a Baldur's Gate or something, but it was a vampire. Okay. And it wasn't a party or anything. It was just literally just you. And it was action, not turn-based. But it was a great game. It just, unfortunately, like I said, for every one of those, there's 2 human that didn't kind of work out. So we'll, I hope this game still sees the light of day, but I'm not keeping it in the forefront. If you remember, he was the head of Silicon Knights, who got sued into oblivion. Like any game made by Silicon Knights now that was on 360 or newer, or 360, they're not really going to be newer anymore. All those games are almost impossible to find. They were ordered to be pulled from all shelves and stuff because they jacked the which engine? The Gears engine, the Unreal
Havoc?
engine. No, it was Unreal, I believe.
Okay.
And did not properly pay for it, and so they ended up having to pay like $4 million to Epic, and they had to pull all the games. They were ordered to destroy unsold copies.
Oh, that's freaking brutal.
Yeah, because they weren't legally allowed to sell them. It was X-Men Destiny, I know, was one of them. I don't know if you ever played that. It was actually pretty good.
No.
Silicon was it 2 Human, and I think maybe one more game. I don't remember, but there was actually a kind of funny a little mini run on them when they announced it. A lot of people went out and bought up all the used copies they could find just to see if they could maybe sell them for money later. I don't know if 2 Human will ever be a classic that rates that kind of income, but yeah, that's what's going on with that.
Well, that's what happens when you screw up. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Mike Tyson plays Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for the very first time.
Did he actually play the Mike Tyson version, or was he playing the Mr. Dream version? Was he playing Punch-Out or Mike Tyson's Punch-Out? I'm curious.
The video says he was playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, so I have to assume that's the one he's playing, but there's no evidence because he doesn't actually face himself in it. which would just be hilarious to me to watch himself get his ass kicked by himself.
That would be pretty great.
But in the video, he's fighting Glass Joe, and he's having a hell of a time beating him.
Were you any good at Punch-Out? I'm sure you played it.
As a kid, I got through Soda Popinski or whatever his name is for the first time.
Yeah, so.
And then a couple years ago, when I first got my tablet, I put a NES emulator on it and used a Wii controller. And I got, using save states, I got all the way up to Tyson, but I haven't been able to knock him down yet.
It's an unforgiving, like, precise series of commands. Like, it's not skill so much as rote memorization to beat the Mike Tyson or the Mr. Dream. You just have to remember the exact right, because one hit and you're on the floor, whereas you've got to hit him something like 8 times per like stagger. It's unreal. You
gotta hit him as many times as you can and just keep avoiding that same shot he does.
It's complete rote memorization. Unfortunately, it's one of those games that's really fondly remembered, but it's actually, in my opinion, kind of a shoddy game. At the same time,
the characters up until Tyson have much more character to them.
Yeah, I agree completely. I still really enjoy the game. I've never actually beaten Tyson. I gave up after 3 or 4 attempts a couple years back. I'd gotten to him several times, and Mr. Dream. I had a Punch-Out cartridge when I was a kid. That was a Mike Tyson branded one. Stopped working. I ended up buying later when I got back into the revival of my NES. I went and picked up a Punch-Out because Mike Tyson's Punch-Out is actually it's not hard to find, but it's not like on the shelf. So
no,
I got the Punch-Out and I put it in and I played and I got all the way there again and I was like, I'm gonna beat this, and 5 or 6 hours I was like, no, just not doing this. But yeah, I really like the game. It's one of those things where it was before we figured out how to make games hard and not just impossible.
Yeah. Oh, that brings us to our next story. Talking about hard games. Apparently, Conan can't handle them. You want to talk about it?
I'm going to let you take this one because I watched it, but I think you're a little more familiar with the 2600. I actually never owned the 2600.
So Conan O'Brien does this series called Clueless Gamer, where he plays video games with his buddy there that's on the screen. If you're watching the video version, I can't remember his name. And then of course he's a comedian, so he's got funny comments and everything as he goes along. And so his buddy broke out a Atari 2600, and it's a real 2600 by the tape that's he's using to hold it together. It's pretty beat up, but they play a few games on it. And the first one they play is the first game that it was a pack-in with, and that's Combat. So they play a few of the tank rounds, and just the jokes are hilarious. He goes, "This is borderline sexual. Look at this thing." He's got the gun of the tanks is sticking out. But the video is absolutely hilarious, and someone needs to talk about it. But he loads up River Raid, which I don't know if we'll get to that part of the video by the time we're done talking about it. And he just immediately crashes the plane into the bank of the river. And he's like, "What the hell? This is a river, right? A plane can go over land. What the fuck's going on?" And it's just a great freaking video. But turns out, of all the games they played, the one he liked, Space Invaders.
And this is a regular thing he does, right? The Clueless Gamer, he does it pretty regular.
Yeah, usually they're doing 360 games, but they decided to break out the 2600.
I never had the old paddles for this. This is one of the systems I didn't own, surprisingly.
Mine is dead in the water. I'm looking to buy a new one. Every time I go into retro gaming, so like, "Hey, you got 2600?" No. And the reason is no is because they need to test it, and no one has a working video switch.
Yeah, it's probably it might be getting kind of difficult to find a working 2600 at this point.
I've seen them a bunch on Craigslist, but they're always more than I want to pay for them. Like, there was one guy who had a collection of stuff. He wanted $80 for it. I'm just like, no. Most of what you have, or what you're going to give me with it, I already have. I'm not going to pay for that stuff. I'll pay $40 for the system. That's what I paid for a Dreamcast. I think it's worth about the same.
Dreamcast is great, though. I would actually pay a little more for a Dreamcast because you can play pretty much any game that's ever existed on it without having to invest, if you so choose.
Yeah, but you can get most of the Atari carts for $2.
That's true.
And one of the stores I go to, it's buy two get one free on anything: Super Nintendo, N64, Genesis, Sega CD, PS1 maybe, and Atari. So that's an all-time. It goes on all the time. And then they have a bunch of sales and stuff. So yeah, I can get the games pretty cheap. Though the Dreamcast games are also on that deal, but they only have like 4 of them, so I could literally buy all of them.
Yeah, they never made them because no one bought them. They just burned them.
I ended up burning a bunch of them because I didn't want to have to search for them. I bought one of the hardest ones to find and one of the most expensive ones. I bought Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I felt like, I got that one. I feel good about my purchases. I'm burning the rest.
Man, for PS1, when we still carried PS1 games, and then for PS2, the Marvel vs. Capcom games, at one point at GameStop, we were selling that game on PS2 for $85.
I used to watch that on eBay just to see what it was, and a lot of times I would see that 3 digits. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right? Like, Jesus.
Oh, here's a River Raid part where he's crashing.
Huh.
Boom, dead. Anyway, you want to talk about the next one then?
Oh, man, yeah. They are making a Streets of Rage 3D for the 3DS. That is fucking awesome. I cannot wait. It is going to be a port of the Mega Drive version, which is an odd choice. I'm not...
For you American listeners who aren't educated in the European systems, Mega Drive is the Genesis.
Yeah. It was the Master System, then the Mega Drive. Mega Drive. They loved... Sega was all about the awesome names. I had the original Streets of Rage on the Genesis, and I fucking loved that game. I always played with the lady, because if I'm going to watch somebody doing high kicks all day, it's going to be a lady. I'm just saying. When I play MMOs, I tend to play ladies, because if I'm going to stare at an ass for, 6 months, I'm going to stare at an elf ass. That's just what's going to happen. So, but I love that. Loved Streets of Rage. It's just, standard side-scrolling beat-em-up. A lot of fun. It was usually your standard. I think Streets of Rage had the 2 guys that looked essentially like Billy and Jimmy from Double Dragon and the girl. And then subsequent ones, they always added the guy, what's his name, Hagar, the big beefy guy. Was in like 2
was he's from the Final Fight series.
You're right. They added another big beefy dude in 2 or 3.
I don't know if they ever merged or not. It wouldn't surprise me that they did. Because the games are essentially the same thing, side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Yeah.
But the problem with this whole news story, it's coming out in Japan.
Yeah. All the cool shit comes out in Japan. It's just
they are adding a new feature to it, though. There is a one-shot kill blow that you can have. I'm not sure exactly how it works or anything, because I can't play the Japanese version.
GoldenEye, yeah, the one bullet kill.
Yeah.
With your fists, so like golden fists.
Golden fist. This sounds awful.
Sounds great.
And the best news of the week, DuckTales Remastered has come out. Just awesome.
I unfortunately haven't had a chance. I picked it up. It's sitting in my Steam. It's installed. It's ready to go. Unfortunately, sitting in my chair, which I'm doing tonight for all of you wonderful folks listening, because I'm on awesome amounts of Percocet. It hurts a lot, so I haven't been able to sit in front of my computer long enough to play it. I'm super excited to get to it, though. I've seen you playing it a few times when I've looked at my Steam list on my phone, sitting in my recliner.
Yeah, just wow. They did a great job keeping this game as you remember it, but updating everything and even adding some new stuff. First of all, it's a great homage to the original. The music and graphics and some functionality has been updated. Like, you no longer have to press down and, well, in my case, I'm using an Xbox controller, so I'm pressing X instead of B like you would in the Nintendo version to get the pogo stick to go. But if you want to have the down and X, you can. You can turn hard pogo on, and you got to do that. So immediately, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm not going to play the wussed out version and just press a button to get my pogo stick out. So I'm bouncing around and I'm going through everything, and I'm like, wait a minute, this first level, it doesn't seem like anything I remember, and it's not. They added a whole new intro level to teach. It's kind of a tutorial level. It does tell you things and it teaches you things, but it fits so well into the game that it's perfectly fine to add, and it doesn't hurt the retro feeling of the rest of the game.
That's because originally, in the original version of the game, it was just when you booted it up, you had a level select. There was no real. Yep. You were just directly into the Himalayas of the moon. Like, which, for the record, the moon had the best. How does the soundtrack hold up? Because the original DuckTales had some of the best sound on the NES. Like you still sometimes hum that shit to myself. The moon theme. Is it the same beats but like updated, or did they do new music? How's that holding up?
It's the same basic song. Oh, I've only played 2 levels. I've played Transylvania and the Amazon, and I've beaten both. I finally finished the Amazon tonight, and both those areas, they have the same kind of beat to the music, same basic music sound. You can hear the original beats and stuff in the background, but they've added layers to it, so it's more of a full song instead of just the chip tune itself.
The 8-bit chip tune, yeah.
Yeah, so it's really, really good.
I'm glad to hear that, because that was one of the things I was really worried they wouldn't be able to get right, because the music was such a big part of that game. It was, I would go out on a limb and say probably the most memorable quote-unquote soundtrack from an 8-bit game that I can remember.
Between this and Mario Brothers, yeah.
So it's good. I'm really excited to get to that. Hopefully in the next few weeks I can jump on that and give it my full review next time we do this.
They did, we'll talk about it a little more then, but they did change things. I'm just going to talk about one of the changes. Like in the Amazon, they're, instead of just going through the level, getting to the end and beating the boss, you have to collect, I think it's 7 coins, maybe 8 coins along the way. So it forces you, in the Amazon, you get that choice of either going down through the bottom or going across the top at that first part of it. You actually have to do both in order to get all the coins to move on past the dial that collects the coins. And I think it adds to the game. It makes... It's different, but it doesn't hurt the quality of the game. It's hard for me to describe, but it added a level of gameplay that it needed.
Well, I understand, because in the original game, you would collect that shit, but it didn't really... You didn't need it. Like, it upped your little score, but it was like hidden stuff. You didn't really need any of it, so... I'm glad they kind of...
you could just rush through it in the original and beat it all, but in this one, it adds a gate to it where you need to experience the level design. And that's the other thing. The level design is very, very close to the original. So...
That's great to hear. I'm excited about this.
And you can finally swim in the money vault.
Oh, man. I have always wanted to do that so much. What kind of magic lets a duck swim through coins? I need to know. Because that should just hurt, right? When you dive off a diving board face first into, like, a pit full of coins, that should break your neck. But it doesn't. And I want to know, like, did Scrooge hire a witch? Because they established there are witches and magic in that universe to, like, coat his body in, like, swimming money power. Like, I'm so curious.
I don't think that much depth is revealed, bud.
Maybe it's Percocet talking.
All right, so you want to talk about why you're on Percocet?
Oh yeah. So this week I had last week I guess now, had my gallbladder removed, and it was not scheduled. It was emergency procedure. I went to the hospital, spent a lovely 4 or 5 days there. Did not eat anything for those 5 days. Took them that long to figure out what was wrong with me, and then once they figured it out, they took it out in a matter of hours and had me up and about. Felt fantastic, but I never go to the doctor. When we were in the Navy together, I only went when they made me, and I did not go before or after. I don't go to the doctors. Don't do it. I'm usually a pretty healthy dude. Don't need to go. I've had food poisoning twice, and both times for close to 5 days, I just hugged my toilet and got through it like a man. I woke up with this gallbladder problem, and I looked my wife in the eye and said, "Take me to the hospital." And she almost fainted. She was like, What? She actually thought I was dying because I asked to go to the hospital. I also thought I was dying eventually, but they turned me away the first time. I went, and they were like, "Oh, we think it's a stomach bug." And I was like, man. And they did an MRI, and they were like, "Well, we don't see anything." But guys, I've had food poisoning. This is not that. And they're like, "Well, it's all different." And I was like, "This is not food poisoning. Mark my words." So they sent me home. I come back like 12 hours later, and I was like, "I'm still dying." And then they put me in the hospital, and they Eventually, they cut it out. They did a bunch of tests, and they were like, "Well, it still doesn't. Nothing's showing up on your. But we're gonna go ahead and cut it out because why not?" And I was like, "You know what? I got insurance. Cut it out." Because at this point, I've been to the hospital for like 4 days. I've hit my deductible. So it's like, yeah, cut whatever you want out. So they did. As soon as they got into me, like, "Oh yeah, I wonder why this didn't seem bad on the test. This looks horrible. It's like the worst gallbladder we've ever seen." On the upside, I did spend like 4 days on morphine and Dilaudid, so that was a bonus. Alternating between feeling I was dying and then feeling I was dying but not caring about it because I felt awesome. So that was my week in a nutshell. It was kind of crappy. I also got my new Blue Yeti in, so you'll hear me in much higher definition going forward. I wanted to get it set up, but I need to like finagle it onto my desk with this like boom arm and stuff, and I'm not allowed to lift more than like, I don't know, like 5 pounds or something. So, or I'll like explode, I guess. I don't know. They didn't really tell me what would happen. So
Probably you'd pull your staples or whatever.
yeah, I think I'd probably get like a hernia or something. Like it's just bad. So hopefully by next week I can get my wife to help me, and we'll put this thing in, and I will sound fantastic.
Fantabulous. Can you just read for me exactly what you wrote in the show notes? Because that's hilarious.
This is what I texted my friend. My gallbladder turned treasonous. I had it executed at dawn, then drawn and quartered for science.
For science!
Yeah, they got it all torn apart. They biopsied it and came back, and they were like, "Well, it was bad. I don't know why." So I was like, "Thanks, guys. Science is great, I guess." And then went home and felt great. On sad news, I only have like 2 days worth of Percocet left, and then it's just me and my gut full of staples.
I guess that's better than a gut full of lead.
Yeah, they're probably like, well, they're not even steel anymore because they dissolve in there. So I don't know what.
Oh, so they're probably some sort of plastic.
Who knows? All I know is I've got 4 holes in my gut, and one of them's in my belly button, which is super weird for the record. Because it's in my belly button, and it hurts a lot, so I can't really clean in there, but I need to because I'm, it's in my belly button.
Rotund?
Yeah, maybe. So when I finally got in there to clean, after I got out of the hospital, like, make sure you clean your belly button, and I went in to clean, it was, my belly button was like super shallow. It was like, I couldn't even get like the tip of my finger in. I was like, that's weird. Turns out when they glue your, they basically put me back together with crazy glue. Like,
yeah.
They put staples on the inside, but the outside, they don't sew together. They literally crazy glued all these holes shut. So, turns out they just crazy glued my belly button shut. So, I just had to, like, dig it. It was terrifying, because I was like, am I digging into my, like, actual gut, or am I just opening...
And can I not feel it because of the Percocet?
It's like, right, is it the morphine still? I don't know what's going on. But eventually, like, I separated. It's like, oh, God, I'm fine. Okay. And then I found the bottom of my belly button. It's just full of glue. But it was a weird day. Weird because I thought I was like, man, if I just what if my finger's like in my intestines right now and I just don't know? Didn't happen. That is not what happened. It was fine. They just glued my belly button shut. It was all fine.
So you got that out on Tuesday last week, right?
Yeah, Tuesday afternoon, and then I got discharged on Wednesday.
So Tuesday for you started off pretty shitty, but it ended on a good note. And for me, it started off pretty shitty because I, found out you're in the hospital, and obviously if I didn't know anything about it, this wasn't planned. I'm like, well, what the fuck's going on with my friend? Then my dog decides to have issues, and we ended up having to put her down. And then while I'm on my way to go put her down, I lose my job. So it was a great fucking Wednesday. Yeah.
I thought I was going to lose my job. It turns out when they took me to the hospital, I didn't take my phone or anything. So I was in the hospital from Saturday till Wednesday, and I did not call my job, like, at all. I work from home, and so Thursday when I come in, I call into work, and they were like, "Where have you been?" I was like, "I almost died. Am I fired?" And they were like, "No, but next time you should call." And I was like, "I'll try."
Yeah, so you had all that going on, then I had those two things happen. So I've had a pretty shitty week myself. So now I get to sit at home and I'm fun employed, which basically means I do a honey-do list, and then when I'm tired of doing it, I play video games. So at least there's that.
Yeah, my wife came home. I've been working since Thursday because I work from home and I do like computer stuff, so whatever. But every time my wife comes home to bring me lunch, I'm playing Tales of Xillia. Turns out I haven't done a lot of work. I just played
Hey.
Terrazillia for like the last week. So.
What are you gonna do? If they complain, just say, "Listen, I'm missing a major organ."
Right? That's what I did enough work that like they know I'm there, but they know I'm also not doing a lot. So starting next week, I gotta kind of buckle down, get some work done.
All right, that's going to bring us to our main section of the show. We're going to talk about Shadowrun.
For
Do you
the
need a break or
SNES,
anything?
notably, SNES, not the Genesis.
Okay. Shadowrun, what a game. It was developed by Beam Software and published by Data East and Laserbeam Software. I'm not sure if Laserbeam and Beam Software are the same company, but when I looked it up on Wikipedia, they were mentioned differently and one didn't have laser. So we're just going to assume they're different.
The developer is Beam, the publisher is Laserbeam. So yeah, I think they're different. Weirdly, that's weird.
Yeah. It was designed by Paul Kidd along with a couple other people, but he was the main designer of the game. And released in May of 1993, the same year I turned 11. Reception and sales for this game were pretty good. It won Best RPG of the Year from Video Games, Electronic Games, Game Informer, and was runner-up for Best RPG of the Year by GamePro magazine. Did you play it back when you were a kid?
I did. I played the hell out of this game. I loved it. I loved the game a lot. The cyberpunk feel that this game captures, this world really, the whole Shadowrun world, is like right up my alley. So I really enjoyed it. It's very similar to like Snow Crash, which invented cyberpunk, so it's not surprising. But yeah, I really loved it. I also love the pen and paper RPGs.
If any of you are watching the video version, I apologize for what's happening in the video right now. I didn't have time to edit it before we went live, so you're just going to have to bear with me while I'm doing some stuff in the background when I was broadcasting this earlier last week. It'll come back and start moving in a second.
This is part of your Let's Play.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the gameplay?
I do, but first I want to mention something that I'm not sure if you know. This game actually had a pretty rocky development. It was not originally done by Paul Kidd. This game was developed originally by a guy named Greg Barnett, if I remember correctly. I think that was his name. But he left about halfway through the development of this game, and they actually shit-canned this game for several months. And it sat there, and then because they were contractually obligated to deliver it right before the deadline for this game, they brought it back out and like pumped through and finished this game. So if it feels a little sloppy, it is. This game was actually, and I didn't know this playing it the first time years ago, but this game went from half finished to full finished in like record time. It was something like a couple months, where typically these games are a game of this depth would have taken much longer. And they scrapped if you can actually find I actually played this version a couple years ago. If you go look and find the ROM, the original version of this game was much darker. It had adult language and themes, references to sex and stuff, which for an NES, Super NES title was pretty unheard of, and that's
they still had their seal of quality back then. They wouldn't allow that crap.
Well, they didn't, and that game is one got scrapped. But you can still find it on ROM. It's not finished, so about halfway through the ROM, you end up playing the regular game again. But it's pretty similar. It's mostly thematically different. The gameplay is pretty similar, but yeah, it's a much darker game. If you are curious and played this game as a kid, or if you've never played it, I recommend hunting that ROM down, just giving it a whirl, and feeling what it would have been like if that game had released on SNES. It would have like wrecked people's worlds.
Maybe I would have had a little bit more. Maybe I would have liked the game a little bit more if it had more of that feel into it. Because as it was, it didn't feel. It didn't. The world felt dark, but it didn't. The dialogue didn't match the world.
No, it does not. It does not. This game is loosely based on the Shadowrun first novel, the first Shadowrun novel called "Never Deal with a Dragon." It's very loosely based. The protagonist is the same, but Other than that, it's pretty different. But the book's not bad if you ever get bored and want to read it.
Have you played the what's it called, pen and paper this was based on?
Yeah, I loved it. It was not a very. The system was a lot of fun, but it was broken. It was not balanced or anything. So, and they gave up on it pretty quickly. There's actually a revival movement right now. People are trying to bring it back, but it's actually the company that made Shadowrun Returns is trying to get some pen and paper stuff published, getting it back on the field. But I love the feel of the world and stuff, but the math, the crunch, if you will, behind it, didn't really hold up, unfortunately.
So, they call this an action RPG in Wikipedia, and I guess it's not turn-based, so I guess it's action, but it's really not action-y.
It's not. It's not fast-paced action.
No.
It's 8-bit speed, so it's almost turn-based, where in how long it takes you to press the D-pad kind of thing, and action RPG it's definitely, it's not turn-based. It happens in quote-unquote real time, so it is a action RPG, I guess, in the very strictest sense. They were trying pretty hard to emulate the pen and paper RPG feel, and they did at least tonally a pretty good job. The game itself was obviously turn-based, like any pen and paper RPG, so I'm not sure why they took the approach of making it real time. It seems a little odd, and it made for some really tough levels where you would enter. I don't know how far you got, but there are a lot of boards where like you'd walk in and you just start getting murdered from like hidden assassins, and because it was real time, half the time you'd be half dead before you could figure out what was going on, and then you'd either have to immediately heal and know, like, hopefully you could, based on trajectory, figure out where the guy was, or a lot of times you would just have to bail out of the screen, heal back up, go back in prepared. That's assuming you didn't die. Make sure you save all the kids.
Yeah, save very often.
The rest of the game is, it was kind of a homage to like point and clicks and stuff of the time, or text-based games. Essentially, what would happen is the RPG part of the game. You would interrogate people and talk to people and try and figure out, the mysteries and stuff, the mystery of the game, and essentially you had a bomb implanted in your head at one point, and you died. Then got a bomb implanted in your head, and somebody had it out for you, and you're trying to figure all that out. But so the interrogation system works through, you would figure out keywords, and then those keywords you could apply to conversations. So if you figured out the word, I don't know, butt sex, you could go ask a guy about butt sex. And he would tell you all he knew. But once you learned the keyword, it would go into this database. And essentially, the longer you played, the more keywords you would have to like interrogate people with. And it became kind of a slog the longer it went on.
I did notice a few of the keywords would go away, like
yes.
Negotiation. Once you learned how to do negotiation as a skill,
That's
the
true.
keyword disappeared. But there weren't many that did that. Like
you ended up with a fair amount.
You found firearms one of the first keywords, and it's still there. I think I got like 3/4 of the way through the game, and I'm still got firearms as a choice. I don't need to ask anybody at this point. I have one of the best weapons in the game.
The game did very much expect you to know how to play it. Like it would give you all these keywords, and it would expect you, while interrogating a person, to kind of figure out what keywords. I mean, you could run down every keyword in the list, but it kind of wanted you to know which keywords to pick based on context. This game, especially in retrospect, did not hold your hand. It, from the combat to the gameplay systems, it expected you to read and understand all the dialogue and everything that was happening around you. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it did not give you all the information you needed to make good choices. So, we'll get into that a little more in a second. But the third facet of gameplay, if you can call it that, was there were areas of cyberspace where essentially, if you had a deck, which you did as Jake Armitage in this game, you could hack, quote unquote, we're going to use the word hack loosely, into the system, and essentially go into
you hacked like you did in the movie Hackers.
You essentially went into the Matrix, and you had a little construct of your little body in the Matrix, and sometimes you would go in to find data files, sometimes you would go in to unlock like electronic doors, or there'd be like an automated turret. You could go in and turn off, or you could make it shoot at friendly, or turn it from firing at enemies to firing at friendlies, etc., etc. But in that world, you could die just as you could in the real world, because essentially someone kills your intelligence, and then your body is just a lifeless husk. Which
The body can't live without the mind.
It's true. Which is, it's a pretty neat concept at the time. Cyberpunk was still fairly new. We hadn't really done a lot with it, so it was fun. I think
and the Matrix movies was still, a few years away.
Oh, many years away. This one was in 1993, so
93, so it was 6 years,
6 years, yeah. So it was. I think, in retrospect, a lot of my love of this game comes from the unique setting and my love of the pen and paper. I still really like the game. It didn't hold up quite as well as I'd like. We'll get into that again more. But let's talk about the story, and that's what we're going to bring in.
Okay, so what I got from playing, you can see my gameplay right here. I just loaded it up and went at it to see what it was about. So what I got from the intro is corporations have replaced the government. Okay, fine. It's kind of common in video games now. I can deal with that. Seattle has become the oil refinery capital of the world. Did the makers of this game ever meet a Seattle beatnik? Them fuckers are not going to allow you to put any type of fossil fuel factory in Seattle. Just, no, not happening. You get shot on the street by a gang of assorted assholes. There's an orc, a couple other people I don't recognize. They just shoot you to death dead in the street. Okay, good. Why? That's part of the game. You get to figure out why. While you're laying dead there, a dog comes up, transforms into a woman, turns you into a zombie, and then goes away as a dog again. So there's werewolves and zombies in this game, and orcs. One of the guys that kills you, an orc. So not exactly sure how those evolve in the future from where we are now, but awesome.
In Shadowrun lore, I forget the exact year, but there was essentially this big magical mystical thing happened, and the world we know, because Shadowrun theoretically takes place in the world we know, and sometime, I think the original year was like 2012 or something, which seems kind of silly now, but this like magical rift opened, and elves, orcs, dwarves, and magic just poured through, and then from that point forward, we just had to deal with a world full of elves, dwarves, orcs, and etc. And magic. So you had this weird blend of magic and technology, because technology had already developed, so then magic comes into the equation, and how all that intermingles is what makes Shadowrun exciting.
Okay, so that's all fine and good, but from then you're brought to a morgue, and that's where the game starts, and basically from there you're putting your life together, Jason Bourne style. You don't know why people are chasing you and trying to kill you. You don't know who you are. Literally, you don't know your name when you start this game. Bourne, also a movie that came out well after this. It makes me wonder if both The Matrix and the Jason Bourne series didn't get something from this game as far as where to start their stories from.
It's possible, though this game also heavily relies on Snow Crash to kind of influence it. If you've ever
was Snow Crash before this?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't read Snow Crash yet, although I've heard it's a lot like Ready Player One, which I have read.
I have not read that, so. Snow Crash was, I think, 92?
Okay. That makes sense, then. But the actual story that I got off of Wikipedia, the narrative opens in Seattle, Washington in the year 2050, where the protagonist, Jake Armitage, is shown being gunned down in the street. A shape-shifting Lupin figure rushes to his side and is seen casting a spell over Jake before leaving hastily as the medics arrive on scene. Jake awakens in the morgue with a complete memory loss. Soon he is approached by the dog, quote, a shamanistic totem who gives him a warning before vanishing. The rest of the story is spent investigating the events leading to Jake's shooting, learning the identity of the shapeshifter who saved him as well as the person who ordered the assassination. A mysterious crime lord named Drake is... Oh, I'm sorry. He is the one who ordered the assassination, Drake did. Most of the information is found by piecing together snippets of data found by hacking various protected computer systems. Along the way, you also encounter gangs, criminals, magically awakened creatures, while under the constant threat of attack from contract killers. Jake also discovers and develops his own magical abilities. Apart from his totem spirit, his only allies are hired services of Shadowrunners And it is eventually revealed that Jake is a data courier who is carrying a program in a computer built inside his brain. So I actually got to a point where you end up with a bomb in your head that you have to go see a better doctor than the one who found it to get it taken out. So they had a bomb protecting whatever was in your head if someone tried to access it. But if you try to access it, I actually did this by accident. In the room you find your cyber deck, there's a computer there, and you can actually hack it later in the game after you get the bomb taken care of. If you try to hack it beforehand, it doesn't trigger the bomb. It just doesn't allow you into the system, which kind of ruins the storyline for me a little bit. But overall, finding out the story in the game was difficult at best. And there were several areas, like you walk into the club, Grim Reaper Club I think it was called after you entered it.
Grim Reaper.
There's like 6 guys in there, and you try to talk to each of them, trying to go through your entire list, and you just get bored of going through your entire list of keywords, trying to figure everything out.
Again, like I said, they really expect you to figure out what key... And it's not hard. Like, I mean, it's not easy.
Well, once you figure it out that once you talk to someone and you use the command talk before you go into your list of keywords, that'll help you as far as figuring it all out. But then there's some, like the little kid in the car yards, I would have no clue that you could buy slap patches from which heal you if you ask him about healing. There's no lead into that at all.
Yeah.
So,
and if you miss that, you probably die real soon, because healing is important.
The only ways to heal in this game are the slap patches, finding a street doctor. I don't know, maybe you can get a spell later in the game. I didn't get to having any magic.
If you focus on healing, you can build up, you can get a heal spell. Yeah. It's pretty late in the game, if I remember right.
And going to bed, which is also where you can save your game and level up.
Yep.
So
with karma
it's just
points.
With karma points that you get from killing bad guys.
And talking. I think you get them talking, right?
I didn't get any. I only got them from killing people.
Only from killing them. Okay.
Yeah, it just some parts of this game are absolutely ridiculous. Like I picked up a gun; it should automatically equip based on what I know about games. That didn't happen. Even in Zelda, you pick up the sword. Take this. You'll need it, or whatever he says. And
it's dangerous to go alone.
Yes, that's it. It's automatically equipped. This game, no. You have to equip your weapon before you can use it, which makes sense, I guess. But I don't know. If I'm walking down the street and some orc's shooting at me, and I pick up a gun, it's going to stay in my hand. It's not going to go into my backpack, okay? I got some other complaints about the game. We'll get into that a little bit later. You want to talk about the music?
Yeah, honestly, the music is a little forgettable in this game.
I felt the exact opposite.
Really? I was bored. Like, it just didn't do anything for me.
I thought it was very unique music stylings for a game, especially of this age. And every time I'd listen to it, first of all, they use musical clues as to when you're being attacked.
That is true. They do, when you're attacked, it switches music, or you sometimes just get the cue, but that's really cool. I like what they're doing with the sound effects, especially, but I don't know, the music just didn't do a lot for me. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on it, as possible, but I did.
To me, that was the one forgiving aspect of this game to me. Was the music was tremendous. I know there's a lot of people that like it, but Chrono Trigger also has a lot of people that like that, and I didn't myself.
I like the Chrono Triggers. So maybe you get to like one or the other, but not both.
You want to talk about your experience playing it, since I've gone into mine a little bit?
Yeah. I don't remember the grindy parts of this game. Once I got to playing it, I forgot how often you have to go, especially the talking stuff, like grinding through the message chats was terrible. Once I kind of started remembering how the game worked, I kind of got away from that. It was fine, but then leveling up is kind of a slog, and I wish the game was a little tighter with that. A little more Western, I guess. Grindy tends to be a little more Eastern, but once you really figure out what is expected of you, the game really starts to shine. I love the universe. I love the mythos. I actually really like the story, even though you kind of got to dig to get to it in this game. I don't like that a lot of times when you enter screens, you'll just start getting shot from a dude on the other side of the fucking map, and you don't know where he's at because he's off screen. That's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is.
So you kind of have to, when you go into a screen, you just have to be ready to start dodging, running around like a madman until you figure out where they're at. The game definitely didn't hold up as much as I hoped it would in retrospect. I still like the game. I kind of wish I could play a version without quite as much grinding.
The grind was my biggest complaint. It was fucking terrible. But first, let's not forget how horrible it was to figure out where to go and what to do.
Oh my god, yeah. When you wake up the first time, like, this game is like, well, fuck all of you. I'm not telling you.
Anyone who's played this game and is watching this video, this is the first time I've played it. I'm not using a walkthrough. I'm just trying to figure it out. And it's obvious. I have no fucking clue. I'm going left. I'm going right. Trying to figure stuff out. I've used the slat patch on myself, the first one you get, which you're not supposed to do. Just ridiculous stuff. I'm at 11 health right now, and I just killed a hitman who gave me 20 new yen. Thanks.
Yeah, which is the money.
Yeah, new yen is the money. It's bad. But the grinding. Oh, the grinding. So there's this... After you get through the first section, you end up getting escorted to the car yards, which is basically a junkyard. Yep. You talk to a bunch of people, and the only way to get out of there is to either kill the king. He's an orc. He's named the king. You either got to kill him or pay him off. You can also learn negotiation and pay him half as much. So, I learned negotiation. He still wanted 2,000 new yen, and I didn't have shit, so I started working on the killing and stuff. And at this point, I'm using a walkthrough because there's basically no other way for me to learn this game in the time I needed to learn it. I could understand back as a kid, you had tons of time and nothing better to do, and you're not getting another game for another 3 months. You might as well learn this game based on what is provided to you. But when we got 2 weeks to get through this game, I couldn't suffer that. When I used to have a job, I was working. So
I did find myself referring to a guide way more than I should have for a game I not only had already played, but had already beaten. I did not remember most of this game when I picked it back up, and I did not remember what was expected of me. And the game does a terrible job of conveying to you what you need to do. On the upside, that does kind of convey this whole memory loss. You don't really know who you are, where you are, or what you're doing. So
exactly, I can forgive it for two reasons. One, the storyline. It matches the storyline, and that's something hard to do in games of this age. And two, you spending those kind of hours learning the story when you're a kid, perfectly fine because you had nothing better to do. But then there's the grind, and in those car yards, I'm using the guide and says, there's this empty section over here. Use this to grind and level up your karma and your new yen, your money. And the first time I went there, no enemies spawned. So I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? So I just left that area. I did all my grinding by just getting better and better at actually working the controls. And I fought my way through the first 5 or 6 guys in the arena matches you can do in the car yards. I got through all of them, and then you got to face a guy with an automatic weapon. And at that point, I'm screwed.
Oh yeah, the samurai that you face, that guy.
Yeah.
Fucks you up. That automatic weapon is. It's like getting shot with an M16 for the first time when all you've seen are black powder rifles. It's like, black powder rifles, whatever, and then it's like, oh god. And
I'm literally killing people with a Beretta. Yeah, I got a shot. So I go through all that, and I'm like, okay, well, the guide says I can, I can challenge the king and kill him. He's actually easier than the samurai. I'm like, okay, bring the king in. So I kill the king, get more money and stuff from that. So at this point, I got like 12,000 yen and, enough karma that I've leveled up a little bit. So I'm like, well, let me go into the next section and not worry about, getting through this whole thing like I should to have the max amount of yen and stuff from it. So I go out in the area and I'm fighting my way through. And the gun I want is 14,000. It was a shotgun. So I go through and I find this little area I can grind. Occasionally a hitman will spawn. He drops the most, up to 80 yen. There's a bunch of little peepholes, and then there's 2 snipers which drop like 20 yen. So I kill the 2 snipers, and then I go to the next area where the hitman is and hope he's there. And in the meantime, I'm killing the peepholes as well to get the karma. I end up with like 17 karma, which to get 17 karma before you level up or need to rest or something is just amazing in itself in this game. But I've only gotten like 1,000 yen for all that work. So I keep going. I finally get the shotgun. I'm like, okay, now at least I'll kill them faster. I know I need more, to do the next thing, which was the bomb in my head. I needed about 5,000 yen to cover all my costs. So I'm like, okay, let me start. And at this point, I've been grinding for like 2 hours, just straight grind. I finally go back into the car yards and into that section where no one spawned, and there's 4 fucking guys there, dropping at least 30 yen apiece. I'm like, are you kidding me? Would have saved me a ton of time, but A, game tells you nothing, and B, spawned nothing the first time I went there, so I had no clue I could grind there. Thank you, game. Thank you for wasting my fucking time.
It's really fucking good at that. But I mean, if you remember playing any of the Final Fantasies on the
I didn't.
Super NES, they also, I mean, you're gonna spend hours grinding. I'm not justifying it or anything. It's just that was just like the trope of the time, and unfortunately, a lot of RPGs still haven't gotten away from that. Like, fuck, give me something to do. Don't make me go to X spot. Even in MMOs, I can't stand grinding anymore. It's like, oh, you need money. Go fucking murder wolves for 6 fucking months. Like, god damn it, game. Give me something to do. Don't. This is obnoxious. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I really like Cthulhu Saves the World and Breath of Death 7. If you're just playing the storyline and you just take the time to explore all the areas of the dungeon looking for secrets, that is literally enough to get you strong enough to beat the boss in there. There's no extra grind at all.
Which, for the record, Tales of Xillia, I'm right at the end now, and that's done a perfect job. I've been pretty leveled the whole way. I took a little bit of time to explore. As long as you explore all the areas and you keep everything, all your stuff leveled and stuff, you're perfectly fine. You don't really have to grind. Now, that being said, if you want to like get the trophies, you have to get to like max level, and look at that, because that shit takes for hours. But you can beat the game without that nonsense, and that, to me, that's a sign of a good RPG. I want to be able to beat it while playing it. I don't want to have to game the game to beat it. I want the game to teach me and get me to the end and let me beat it. If I have to stand in like one spot and murder the same mob, trying to find the most efficient way to earn XP for the next 4 hours, that shit I do not need.
No, and it's absolutely made fun of by the South Park about World of Warcraft, where they grind fucking pigs to get leveled up to be able to beat the asshole.
And this game, unfortunately, is, fucking the worst about it. Like, especially, it's kind of unforgiving in an action RPG. Like, essentially, you're playing an action game where you have to go murder people for an hour to buy a new gun to go to the next area. Because this game's not actually all that long. I don't remember what the speed run of it is, but it's the actual content of this game. I think there's 3 real sections to the game, 3 city sections, plus all the little mini areas. But it's the grind that takes so goddamn long.
It's absolutely terrible. Let's see, how much... I'm looking it up now. Go ahead and talk. I'm going to look up how long I actually spent playing it over the last 2 weeks.
I think we've covered it pretty well. I think we both love this. I think we both like the premise, but hate the concept, the execution.
I understand that the game, had a kind of a broken cycle and everything, but literally when the guy just tells me, okay, just grind until you have this much money and this much karma, and then there's nothing in the guide for you to do until you have that, that's terrible, terrible game writing.
Yeah, and the fact that the game doesn't tell you any of that. Like, you'll just go beat your face against some enemy and keep dying over and over until you realize you need to go off into, like, the corner and kill mobs for an hour so you can come back and maybe beat this guy. Like,
And make sure you save, because if you didn't save, now all your fucking shit's lost. You literally have 1 life the entire game.
Save.
You can It got so annoying to me that I spent a bunch of that karma I had. My health went from the 30 you start with. I'm now at 100 because I just couldn't deal with it. And I don't think that's going to be enough to finish it. Not that I'm going to, but...
Yeah, I probably won't either. I've beaten this game once. I'm probably not going to... No, this is the first game that we've reviewed that I haven't completed in the 2 weeks. A lot of that was Gallbladder. Once I was on Percocet, I just could not be bothered grinding. I just couldn't do it. I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer for like a week and played Tales of Xillia.
How much Buffy did you watch? And did you watch your versions you bought from England?
I did. Season 3. I got all the way through Season 3. Yeah.
That's fucking brutal, dude. That's, 60 episodes of Buffy?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it I was half asleep through. I've seen it, so it's not... It was just kind of on, but I existed through it.
Man.
It was in and out for a while. So what? All that aside, all our gripes, complaints, and things we liked. What are you gonna give this game? Out of
Of all the games we've played for this show, which not that many, we're on episode 6, but we've played Mega Man, we've played Chrono Trigger, we've played Donkey Kong Country, Dragon's Lair, and Eternal Darkness. This is the worst of the 6. I'm giving it 3. At least with Dragon's Lair, I had more fun playing it.
wow, brutal. I wrote in the show doc a 7. I'm gonna knock this down to 6 because I've talked myself down. I love this game despite its flaws. When I played it originally, I would give it a 9. I was really into RPGs in the SNES era. I played Final Fantasy constantly. Chrono Trigger, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana. Love these games. This is kind of... And it was action combat, which at the time they really weren't doing a lot of, especially this kind of combat.
This was well before Diablo.
Yeah.
I think.
Secret of Mana and Secret of Evermore and stuff had action combat, but it was all like swords and stuff. This was guns and magic and stuff, which was kind of innovative at the time. It was kind of interesting. But I really love the world that they built for Shadowrun, so that really helps me along. And I think the story, once you get to it, is pretty good. So I'm going to stick at a 6. It's probably higher than it deserves, but nostalgia's carrying me along a little bit here.
Yeah, this was 3.5 years before Diablo was released, which basically defined what an action RPG is from then on. So,
yep. Which they just announced the expansion to, if you haven't seen it, by the way.
Yeah,
the first expansion for Diablo 3 was just announced.
Reaper of Souls, which I guess I haven't watched the video yet, but I guess it takes a very dark turn. But how much darker could you get? You're dealing with the 7 hells and.
Yeah. I didn't get into Diablo. I've got a couple friends, one mostly, but his whole family is kind of into this. Diablo 3 Fever. Like, his dad plays, and he's Paragon level, he just hit 100. Like, the max Paragon level. That's intense.
Yeah, I never even reached 60. I think I got a character in the 50s.
I hit max level. I stopped playing for the Paragon levels. My friend is, I think he's, 60 or something Paragon level, and they play a lot. And his brother played some. I know his other brother played, and a couple of my other friends played. But I didn't do it in game. But they're adding actual raiding, where if you get more people, you can actually get more loot and better loot. And there's certain zones that are going to be raid zones. So Diablo is essentially wowing it up. They're adding in raids. I don't know how.
They kind of had to though. They gave it away to so many WoW players that they expected. You couldn't just come up with... First of all, the content didn't last nearly as long as it did in Diablo 2. The game went by really fast.
Yeah.
So that was the first issue with it. But then you gave it away free to millions of World of Warcraft players who are used to your games, having endless content. I know Diablo was never that before, but you put that expectation in their head by giving them the game.
And to be fair, they have added a ton of content to that game post-launch to try and address those problems. I think by that point you and I were both kind of tuned out.
Yep.
But they've really, really done a lot of work on it. And as much as I wasn't really into the Diablo 3, my friend has mentioned all the changes, and I really like what they've done. I'm probably going to give the expansion a go when it comes out, and maybe I'll get back into it. Who knows? I'm not playing an MMO right now.
I'll wait for a sale on the expansion before... I'm not going to get it at launch because I really just don't have an interest in playing it. You probably have to be level 60 to even do the expansion. I know you basically... Well, maybe not. Maybe they're going to do it with the difficulty levels, but... I imagine to do any type of multiplayer with that, they're not going to have as many people come back for the expansion as they did with Diablo 2. Yeah. Well, so you're basically going to want to be a level 60 at that point.
It does remain to be seen. They're adding 10 new levels, too.
And a new class.
Yeah. I forget what the class was, but I know they're adding
Crusader.
10 new levels. And essentially a palette. So they're... I'm excited. I don't know if I'll pick it up day one or anything, but I am excited to get back into the universe. I haven't been playing a Blizzard game lately because they won't give me a beta to Hearthstone. because
Yeah, I haven't gotten that either.
I really want to try it. I really want to play it. Blizzard, if you're listening, send me a Hearthstone invite. What's up?
If Blizzard's listening, send us anything. We'll be your bitch.
I just want Hearthstone right now. That's all. I know. I did.
We'll give you free
WoW
advertising for a month. If you send us Hearthstone beta that
forever.
costs you nothing.
We'll give you whatever you want forever. I actually resubbed to WoW this month, and I played for a day.
Oh, okay.
So I spent $14 for one day of WoW. Dailies, man, dailies. I don't like them.
That's what killed me.
Can't do dailies. I'm not doing it.
I was working on my own before in the end of Cataclysm. I was working on having my own army of characters for crafting. Then the new version came out with Miss Pandaria, and basically you had to dedicate yourself to just one character in order to become raid ready. And
yeah, I had the same thing.
It just killed it all.
At one point, I had 580s, I think. So then I only got like 2 of them to 85. Just the amount of dailies, and then every time they'd add new content, it was dailies. And I understand some people like that, but I cannot be asked doing the same 15 quests every day for the rest of a month. I can't do it. It's fucking boring.
I can do it for a month. I did it with what was that? Firelands. That's what it was called.
I did it too, but I was so bored doing it. Like, instead of making someone grind for a month straight, why not make a storyline that takes that long? Like, instead of doing 15 quests, make 3 or 4 quests they do, and they can only do that many a day. But it's just a storyline. You know what I mean? It's not the same quest. Like, I understand it's more work, blah blah blah. But fucking daily boring.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna argue with you. But what are you gonna do? Anyway, normally here's where we put our listener shit, and we don't have any listeners, so we don't have any shit to talk about. We also have our guest plugs, but we've only had one guest, and that was last week, and Andy hasn't been invited back because we don't like him. No, I'm just kidding. He's just has I don't know if he even has played this game or heard of it. So
he's good people though. We'll have him back.
He is good people. I like him a lot. And his partner Fondre on Geek Culture Happy Hour are great. Also, the guys over at Late Night Steamer that I do a show with are great as well. Like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're not listening to other podcasts, please do.
Yeah, they're great.
Go ahead.
No, I just said they're great.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much all of them.
I actually watched a little bit of Minecraft today. Linux, who does Minecraft Uncensored, had a Twitch stream going for a little over an hour, maybe hour and a half, and he's building a new server farm on his Feed the Beast mod of Minecraft. So I don't really know much about the game. He had more items in inventory boxes than I could, count, and he'd open it up and within 2 seconds close it down, knowing what was in there and got what he needed. It was kind of ridiculous to watch him play.
Yeah, I've tried to get into Minecraft. I can't do it. I need more structure. Less possibilities, more structure.
I'm not a big sandbox game guy myself. I liked the storylines in the Grand Theft Autos, but the only other time I did extra crap was just to either jump some of the ramps or get a tank and kill as many FBI agents as I could.
I love that those games exist. I love that sandbox games exist because there is definitely a need for them and people love them. They're just not my jam.
Nope. I like stories and I like something. Either that or a score to beat. I need structure. I can't have this free reign. Which is weird because in life I love having free reign.
Right? That's the thing. I think our escapist nature, we want something that we don't have. And I want like a good story that takes place in a really well-detailed universe that is not mine.
All right, so I think that about does it for this show. Next week, once again, we're going to be covering Shadowrun Returns on Steam. So I got to go ahead and go buy that tomorrow.
Which I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with. It is much different.
I've heard a lot of good things, and one of the things about this game is you eventually get a party. Never even got close to having that, so I'm hoping that happens a little sooner in Shadowrun Returns.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll feel completely different. So that's good because I gave this a 3, and to me that's a don't bother playing it again.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, I don't think if I had experienced this game now for the first time, I would not be into it.
All right, so next week, Shadowrun returns. That leads us to our closing of the show. We have our links, returnoftheretro.com, where you can find all your Return of the Retro needs. Our show notes will be there with links to the stories we covered. Also, there'll be links to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and... Did I add Google Plus yet? I might not add Google Plus yet, so I have to get on that for those 10 people that actually use Google Plus and didn't just sign up for it.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah, I wanted to, but none of my friends did. So every time I tried to threaten them, I'm like, okay, I'm done with Facebook. If you guys want to talk to me, I'll be on Google Plus. And then I'd wait for someone to show up, and no one did.
I did the same thing, bounce back and forth. I think Google Plus is a superior product to Facebook, hands down.
Yep.
I think it is 100% better. But social network, social media is only as good as the people in it, and if nobody's there, what you gonna do?
And the reason Twitter can compete is Twitter is a completely different style of social networking, whereas Google Plus and Facebook are essentially the same.
Yeah, Google Plus really took aim at Facebook and fell a little short. Not because it's not a good product, just because it did not draw in the people for whatever the reason is.
Yeah, somehow Facebook was able to kill MySpace by being a superior product, but Google Plus couldn't kill Facebook the same way. I don't get it, especially when it had all the money and power of Google. But
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, you can also catch stuff about this show on geekinsomnia.com, because we are part of the Geek Insomnia Network, and we want to thank them for letting us be the data jacked zombie in their cyberpunk podcasting network. And of course, thank you to, I found out that I was saying his name wrong. It's Timber.
Like the
it's
music.
Actually, yeah, it's a musical term. I didn't realize that. Thanks to Timber of freesound.org for our outro.